Welcome to What is Enough, Part 4. Now, you know we're focusing on change, and change is always personal. Change is also often very incremental. One of the reasons that we're looking for cash and cash flow awareness is so that you can start to develop awareness of how your money is spent and how small changes compound just like interest over time. One thing you'll notice that there's always work involved. You know, the average American spends more time planning annual family vacations than they spend in a lifetime focusing on their financial health and well-being, their overall financial planning. The stuff that we're looking at is simple but not easy. If you're presented with this choice, it's really a simple choice. One of these we know is much better for us than another one in different degrees, but it's not an easy choice. I'd certainly rather have one than the other personally. So when you're making choices, realize that they're always, in many ways, simple choices that have to be made, but they're not easy until they are. And once you develop a pattern of looking at things in a particular way, these decisions in this process will become easier for you. So from our last class, hopefully you've taken a moment to look at the workbook. Now look at part 3 and any additional notes that you made on the work and the progress that you've made so far. It's always worth celebrating any progress because a true miracle is simply doing something that you didn't know you could do. So hopefully you've also tracked your expenses. If you track your expenses over 30 days, or maybe if you're taking this class in sequence and you're still working on that, we're going to encourage you to continue to track your expenses, ideally for up to 90 days for a full quarter, so that you get, again, without judgment, just awareness and knowledge of where the money is coming and where the money is going. And one way that we can start to build more awareness in figuring out what is enough for us is to convert our money spent into life energy. So when you look at the worksheet, and you look at the Calm Pen Fin, one of the opportunities for you is to fill out your expenses over the course of a year. So what you're going to do is simply go through and say, right now, I spend this amount each month in rent. I spend this amount each month for a mortgage. I spend this amount for gas. And again, you can do this through the tracking and the expenses that you're tracking. Or you can do that through using a third-party tool that will actually pull the information right out of your checking account. Again, like a Mint, or in many cases your bank account will allow you to print up a statement. And this is about, again, looking at where is the money coming in today. Don't worry about the tomorrow right now. That's another exercise. But get your today in there. And then what we want to do is convert that spending into life energy. It's one of the really important reasons to understand what you really make per hour. Because, again, as you look at trading your life energy for your work, you're pledging these work for future expenses. When I borrow money, or when I make a commitment to spend money, I'm pledging my future. I'm pledging to work in the future to make that money to pay. When I first converted my hourly income into these pledges, it really had a profound impact in thinking about my relationship with money. For example, if your current mortgage rent is $2,500, and you divide that by the current income that you make today, you'll have a number. In this case, 98.91 hours. So when you think about this from a standpoint of converting your life energy into work, you become aware that for the rent that I'm paying, or for the mortgage that I'm paying, I'm pledging about 100 hours of my life each month to make that payment. If gas is $100 and I'm making, say, close to $25 an hour, then I've got about 4 hours of my life energy is committed to paying for the gas, and about 4 hours for the electric. and maybe 6 hours for phone and internet. Maybe I'm spending 10, 11, 12 hours just to pay for gasoline. So take a moment and think about that. If you, for example, only spent $150 on gasoline, maybe you would only then need to pledge about 6 hours of your life each month towards buying gasoline. That is in essence giving you 6 hours of your life back. You could possibly trade into a car that's more efficient. You might find a job that's closer and requires less travel. Each of these are not about necessarily making the decision today. Those decisions will arise. You'll have an opportunity. But when you make them from that perspective of life energy, your relationship to money, time, and energy starts to shift. So take the time, open your pen thin, go through and put in all your expenses, and look at how each of those expenses is converted into life energy. Then as you look at how energy is being transmitted, you ask yourself a question: is this how I want to spend my life energy? So we're going to give you 3 questions that will really help with that. They were transformative in the way I started to think about my relationship with money. So here are 3 questions that can change your life. I encourage you to write them down. Does this expenditure bring me satisfaction and fulfillment in proportion to the hours of life energy I will spend on it? So maybe you spend 5 hours commuting. Some people love commuting. They listen to podcasts, they listen to music, they talk to family members. Some people hate that process. So what you're really doing, this is why it's always personal for you, look at each expense and look at the hours of your life that you're currently trading for that expense and ask yourself that question. Does the X hours I spend of my life energy on this expense bring me satisfaction and fulfillment? Second question: is the expenditure of life energy in alignment with my values and life purpose, with what I really want in my life? Is this taking you in the direction that you want to travel? Sometimes trajectory today is more important than destination. Am I heading in the right direction now? Third question: how might this expenditure be different if I didn't have to work for a living? Sometimes we don't consider that the work that we're doing has implied expenses and requirements embedded in it. And again, none of these are about judgment. You shouldn't say, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or I should be. Simply be aware of each of these 3 questions, and we'll go through each. So question 1, does this expenditure bring me satisfaction and fulfillment in proportion to the hours of life energy I will spend on it? This is a profound shift in behavior if you'll ask yourself during the day, week, or month, as you spend money. And as you do that, it awakens a natural sense of enough. When you're not spending based on a pattern and you're spending based on fulfillment, your behavior will change. The law of diminishing returns is built right into nature. If you just observe it, you'll know that when you're spending money and it's fulfilling, maybe you're taking your grandchildren to a movie, incredibly fulfilling, just watching their faces, or taking your own children. And then maybe you're going through and you're grabbing some fast food and you eat the food and you can't even taste it. And then you feel tired and sluggish and you're like, man, I feel bad. I don't even taste the food, right? It wasn't very fulfilling. So you're taking the time to ask yourself as you spend money, because as you spend money, you're spending your life energy. You're pledging either prior life energy in the money that you've already made or future life energy in the commitment that you're making to spend that money going forward. Question 2, is this expenditure of life energy in alignment with my values and purpose, with what I really want in my life? If your values and purposes are buried under the weight of a lifestyle that doesn't fit you, you'll start to see that when you're maybe stretching for a new car that you really want, but by buying that new car, you realize you've just pledged yourself into a higher payment for 4, 5, 6 years that you'll then have to labor to fulfill, which maybe isn't what you really want right now. Your values will inform those beliefs, and you'll see that reflection in the values as you start to ask this question, is what I'm doing in alignment? And if you aren't sure how to be in alignment, we have another little exercise for you called What is Your Dream that we'll do as part of your homework assignment. It'll help you get back to some of those core values. And again, by just being aware of those values, certain decisions about spending will become very, very clear. When your actions are out of alignment with your values, you tend to experience, or out of alignment, there's fear, there's guilt, there's frustration, there's an emotional imbalance. There's 2 ways you can get rid of those negative, unwanted feelings. You either change your actions to align with your values, or you change your values to align with your action. It is so much easier to change your actions to align with your values. And when you do that, there's a financial integrity that comes with that you'll really appreciate. And you won't have to ask, is it happening? You'll know it's happening because you'll feel complete, again, in the process, in the spending, in the transition. Third question, how might this expenditure be different if I didn't have to work for a living? Now, most of us have to work for a living. This question helps you explore the activities and expenses that might go away in a different job, or if you weren't working. For example, you might have less gas that you have to buy. You might have a smaller wardrobe, a simpler wardrobe. You might have less commute time, which means less decompression after a stressful drive home. Possibly less illness or less having to hire other people, servants to do work for you. You might feel more independent because you're able to do things for yourself that you don't have to engage others for. The key is it's simply an exercise of asking, gosh, how much of my current spending, 10, 20, 30%, is actually based on work itself? Because that's giving me a sense of having to work so that I can afford to work. And that can be, again, very unfulfilling. The heart of this approach is to develop a clear picture of what brings joy and satisfaction. In other words, your fulfillment. What is fulfilling to you? Because once you know what fulfillment feels like, and you start to see it reflected in your energy and in your spending, you will find major shifts in the way you think about time and money. You know what feels right to you, because what feels right is what's in alignment with your values. And as you do this, you'll develop a picture, a clearer and clearer picture of what you want your life goals or your purpose to be, especially in relationship to earning money. You'll know what it's like to be in charge of your life. This is the very foundation of financial independence as fiscal bliss. Because if financial independence is all about a number and making money, you can put yourself in the grave trying to make the money you need to be financially independent. When you marry financial independence with fiscal bliss, you approach things very differently. So, think of this as information gathering at this point. Watch your behavior. Watch how you spend money. Does that coffee bring fulfillment? Then do it. Drink more coffee if it brings you more fulfillment. My guess is after 3 or 4, you'll realize, well, that's enough. I don't need to spend more money on coffee. One coffee in the morning is enough. And that example will play out again and again in other things where you realize maybe I'm spending a lot of money on junk food or snack food that really isn't fulfilling. I'm not only hurting my body, but I'm also spending money, which is taking away my life energy because I'm having to work for that money to buy things that really don't bring me the value and the sense of fulfillment, the clarity, the happiness, and the peace that I want in my life. So he who knows he has enough is rich. And we'll say he or she. So how do you get to enough? You need some accountability. And that's where this awareness exercise of knowing what's coming and going is critical. And technically, you could never have enough, right? That's what we're trying to communicate is it's about what is enough for you. But enough itself is just more. If it's just more, it's always more. But you can never really have enough. So you have to come up with an accountability to say, what's enough for me? How do you do that? Through awareness, through looking at your own happiness and fulfillment. We all want to be happy. We all want to be fulfilled. So you have to measure by not what others have, but by what you have and that you want. Because if you focus on getting ahead, and that's your main goal, you will stay on the money-go-round. And that will be your legacy for your life, your spouse or partner, and your children. If you only care about yourself, you won't have enough until you have it all. And you can never have it all. So this is about accountability. It's creating an internal yardstick for yourself. It's you defining the goal, the game, the rules by which you're going to play the enough game. So let's make some visible progress. One of the simplest ways to make progress is to track something very simple. We call this the make spend exercise. So each month, over the course of 12 months or a year, you simply write down at the end of the month, this is what I made, this is my make number, and this is my spend number. My make and spend. Just by tracking that alone, by knowing that you're going to track these numbers, your behavior can start and will shift. But if you make less than you spend, you have to know that now and know that it's unsustainable. If you make more than you spend, you know that there's an opportunity to start paying it forward and creating freedom and not only financial independence, but fiscal bliss. So before part 5, review the answers for part 4 that you wrote down today on any of the exercises. Track every expense, whether you've been at this for a week or 30 days, or looking to get to 90 days, at least one full quarter. And we want you to start, and you can go backwards if you want, and look at prior months. Look at your checking and savings account with your bank, or use, again, a third-party tool. And look at your make versus spend, and go ahead and fill that out right in month January, February, March, April. Make, spend. And there should be a gap there, a difference. And it may vary from month to month. And then complete the what was your dream exercise. Let's take a look at that now. So make your notes here. You could print this out and use this for your make spend and just write in the month. And the what was your dream exercise is something that can help you, let's just say, reacquaint yourself with yourself. So take a moment and answer these questions. Take your time. What did you want to be when you grew up? Think back to that little kid that was always doing X. What's the thing you couldn't stop doing when you were a kid? You always found yourself doing X. Was it building blocks? Was it being outside? What did you think you wanted to do? Next question. What have you always wanted to do that you haven't done yet? Something that you can feel. It's almost like a bit of an ache. I've always wanted to do this. Next, what have you done in your life that you're really proud of? When you look back on your life, write down some things that you can say, I am so proud I did this. Again, take your time. Spend time with this. This is work, but this tremendous payoff in the work that you're doing. If you knew you were going to die in a year, how would you spend that last year? This is a very difficult but profound question that we're often asked, but take a moment based on those first three questions. Let them guide you into this question. What would I do? How would I spend my last year? What brings you the most fulfillment? And how is that related to money? It may be incredibly connected. Some people get tremendous fulfillment just earning and making money, providing for a family. So you may provide for a family is fulfilling, and that's related to money because that's a part of providing for the family. This is not, again, about a right or wrong answer. It's about the right answer for you. What do you find fulfilling? Is it gardening? And if it's gardening, ask yourself, is that really tied to money? Or is that something that I can simply do to do? And if you didn't have to work for a living, where would you spend your time? These 6 questions, if you will look at them in the whole, will help point at a quality of both integrity and fulfillment that you may be looking for in your life that you might be able to further develop in your current work, in retirement, or in other things that you're doing. So in our next session, we're going to look at the dreams. What were your dreams? How do they play out? How you value your life energy today. We're going to look at money myth conceptions. And we're going to ask the question, why work at all?